right, Rick Berube here live with Dan Mumm. We're joking because Paul's like 3, 2, 1. All right, we're live, so we're gonna,
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're live here over at the St. Rose office, okay, on this wonderful Wednesday, right? Yeah. Market's picking up.
It is.
Yeah, tell me a little about that before we get into the topic.
Yeah, I mean, I've been looking at the market stats a lot. So 786 properties under contract here in the last week.
Yep.
That's the highest number since March that we've seen as far as new properties under contract. And the April, I don't know if we talked about it on Monday, but the April numbers came out and the prices didn't change at all.
Right. Yeah.
Or at least in Vegas, the prices didn't change at all. Like the price, I think we did talk about it. They basically stayed the same. So
now, the numbers went down a little bit though, right, for April over March?
Number of transactions went down.
By how much about? Percentage.
It was at like January, it was probably like a 30% decrease.
Okay.
So it was the same as January 2019 number of transactions. I remember that time. Okay. It was kind of like we were kind of in a low spot. So
yeah, January, February, March, in April last year, and then it took off.
Yeah.
This year, well, every year has a slowdown. This time it's just been manufactured by.
Yeah, but think about that. Like, put that in perspective. The number of transactions in April,
right,
which would have been, everyone would regard that as the worst month of all time, right? Because like everyone lost their job during this month supposedly. And it's like, we still did the same number of transactions as we did in January 2019.
Right.
And think about what people's mindsets were then. No one was freaking out.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and it's like talking about my coaching, I'm like, look, a pandemic, I'm 55 years old. A pandemic, I've never seen this before. I've never been able to put my car on cruise control from Summerlin exit to here, St. Rose, without taking it off, ever. Since I've been working here for 6 years. So, basically it disappeared, or so we thought, but it really didn't. So it says a lot about the health of the real estate market and economy.
Yeah, and it's not me just being a cheerleader or falsely optimistic. That's not good, I don't think, either. But to your point exactly, it just speaks to how healthy the market was going into this.
Right.
If we're seeing that much of a drop and we're still at that level, it's just
pretty incredible.
It's really good news, yeah.
So it went down to as low as 70% of the total market, which are our company numbers too.
Right.
Except I say California might have been like 65% at one time. And Arizona didn't go, I don't think Arizona dipped below 75%. So, but Arizona's been the most, I would say least shut down.
Yeah, because their economy is less travel and entertainment than Vegas. So that would make sense that they fared a little bit better.
More golf. Yeah. Which you can play socially distanced.
You can still do that, yeah.
Yes, especially the way some of you play, you're all over the place. So.
There you go.
All right.
Little jab in there.
Myself included, though. I'm jacking it myself. Because anyway, so now you've seen the numbers tick up. Mm-hmm. So we went from 70% down. So what would you say April was, or this week, this particular week? Would that be
number of transactions closing?
Right.
600, a little over 600. So we're tracking to go way above April.
Okay.
In May.
Exactly.
So which makes sense because if you think about April, most of the job loss was in. So you had all these deals in escrow that just fell out, and that's what we talked about a lot with that number. That number was about 500 a week, deals falling apart here, and that went down all the way to 200 a week. Now it's still at 200 a week. So
which is probably normal.
Yeah, that's pretty much the normal number.
Normal fall through number is before.
For at least our market. So if nothing changes, we're tracking to go back up basically to like February numbers and number of closings.
Yeah.
So, and I think it seems like nothing will change unless there's something really unexpected that happens negatively. We're probably going to continue on the same trajectory, and it seems like we're going to hit our February number. And then Forrest's blog came out. I don't know if you looked at that too.
Yeah, I did.
He talked about the time it takes for properties to sell here hasn't changed either. It's like of the properties that are priced right, it's like they sell in 25 days. I think the average was.
Yeah.
So there's really no change in the market dynamics for people who are motivated buyers and sellers that are pricing their properties right.
And that fat part that's just been sitting there forever is still sitting there.
Right.
Meaning that if you're overpriced, it doesn't matter what you do.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like trying to work out a bad diet.
Yeah.
You'll never outwork a bad diet. You got to do both.
Yeah. And I always just talking about that. That's the number one most important thing for listings now and always is just the price. Yeah. And agents ask me a lot like, oh, what should I do? My listing's not selling. Should I try this strategy? Should I try this strategy? The bottom line is the price dictates whether the listing sells or not. It's a number one sales tool for a listing. If you want to make your listing more sellable, you have to adjust the price. That's it. And other things do help. Professional pictures help. Having access to showings helps. Having that property show well helps. But the number one thing is the price.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah, the price. Yeah. You already have the best brand, best tools. Now you just need the right price. and it all comes together.
Yep.
By the way, I'm going to put a little shameless plug here because I'm going to ask Dan one more question. Is if you didn't see my interview with Mike Ferry on Zoom last Friday, go to my YouTube channel. He answers 9 questions. Really awesome. I thought it was great. 35 minutes long. Check that out. But now, Dan, I'm going to ask you one of those questions is, okay, so now we've been putting up with this for what, 7, 8 weeks now?
Mm-hmm.
We've done like
Almost 2 months.
13, 12 or 13 of these now, which is
Yep.
great. By the way, if you haven't watched all of them, watch them. They're on my YouTube channel as well.
Yep.
Yours too, I think, too, right?
Yeah.
So the question I'm getting a lot right now is, okay, Arizona is now, the restaurants are going to be like 25, 30%. They're opening. Things are starting to open up. The casinos have put out pictures of what the new casino is going to look like with those plexiglass walls everywhere. So as an agent, as it starts to open up and it's already factoring into the numbers, showing that we're heading back to it was already healthy. It never got unhealthy. It got a little less healthy, but it was never unhealthy. As we get back into our new normal, what are some of the things you'd consider as a real estate agent?
Yeah, well, the number one thing, which we didn't really talk about, but not watching the news, I think, is still important, and staying away from negative influences. I actually thought, we talked about it in the beginning, and I got in the habit of like staying off of it completely. And then like recently, in the last couple of weeks, I was like, oh, it seems like things are getting back to normal. I'm gonna try and like peek, see what's going on. I was like, nope, I'm staying away from that.
Yeah.
Because even now, it's still, there's a lot of negativity out there just because there's all debate about do we open, do we not open, and there's just, you want to avoid all of that negative influence. That's important for your business because your mindset is an actual business tool. It's a sales tool. And if your mindset's negative, that negatively affects your ability to do business. That comes across in you talking to people. That comes across in how likely you are to stay focused every day. That causes you to get distracted when you want to look at the news and see what's going on and go on social media and be arguing with people on Facebook about whether we should open or not.
Right.
So that's the number one thing. I would just double down on that. That's what I did. I started
challenge yourself.
Yeah,
right?
I did. I started going back on it. I was like, okay, not ready for this yet. I'm going back in my little hole. Now I still post things. I still use it for business, but as far as going overboard and watching the news all the time, I would just double down on that.
Yeah, and you know, to me, I'm going to give a crazy example. To me, it's like when you watch the news, it's like filling a garbage bag with manure and then taking it with you everywhere. Okay, let me take my... It's like when you have that in
It's
your
just
head.
a burden. It's a burden.
It's in your mind. You can't, it's like you can't unsee it. You can't unhear it once you've heard it. You're better not even going there. And every day that goes by that you don't do that and listen to audiobooks and read, do your affirmations, you feel better at a cellular level because your mind, okay, if you listen to the news, check this out. You listen to the news and you're listening to negativity, it changes your blood pressure. It's actually like eating, okay? It's really the same thing, basically. You're changing your chemistry in your body by listening to junk. When you listen to positive stuff, the whole reverse happens. I'm listening to a book right now called The Celestine Prophecy. Have you heard of this book?
I don't think so.
It's a fable about the energy you emanate, okay, out of your mind. And it's really, you get what whatever you're thinking. The world's like a mirror, right? You think certain thoughts, you attract that stuff. So even if you say, well, I can't help it, I have to watch the news. No, you don't. It's not a requirement. I checked the rule book for life. It's not in there, right?
Yeah, I completely agree. And then one other thing, just bring it back to business. If you just look at the agents who are the most successful, none of them are arguing about what's going on social media. They're out there doing business. They're focused. They're trying to help people, and they're not spending all their time engaging in all this negative stuff.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind. And then the other thing we just joked about is that the solution is always just to talk to more people. That solves all of your problems. Prospecting more solves every problem in your life for the most part. It really does. So hopefully you guys have been watching this for the last few weeks and listening to what we've been talking about and applying that. Because if you've been talking to more people than you have been in the past, that will really pay off when things start to reopen for sure.
No doubt.
And also, I would really try and focus on being a listing agent and focus on your ability of taking good, saleable listings, because when things start to reopen, personally, I think there's going to be a huge increase in demand in about 2 to 3 months, or at least here I think there's going to be.
Yeah.
And if you're positioned as a listing agent, you're going to be able to really take advantage of that. So hopefully you've been applying some of the things we've talked about. Hopefully you have a group of prospects, people that are maybe holding off because of COVID, and you've been talking to those people every week, keeping them updated with what's going on, getting the market stats. You could just get them from these videos if you watch them, or whatever source you use. But I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's funny. I remember back in the '90s, your exact thought was the way I used to think. We're going to go through a roll. When it's going to start, the more listings you have, the better the roll you go through.
Yeah,
it's really that simple. And having great conversations. Plus, I don't know about you, but when you're done your prospecting, it's even if you didn't have a great day prospecting, you still feel great about what you've done.
Always, yeah. You always feel better out.
It's like going to the gym. You never feel terrible. The ride home from the gym is like the best ride of the day. The ride home from work when you've done your prospecting, it feels great. So if you ever thought, you feel guilty sometimes when you go home, I should be back, it's usually because you didn't do your job while you were at work and vice versa.
Right.
Okay, so all right, so as coming out of here, have a pipeline, talk to a bunch of people. Anything else they should be considering as far as
Yeah, so just strategy-wise, when you're this is at least what I'm seeing when I'm following up with people. In that little group that I talked about, you guys have probably all talked to buyers and sellers who are saying, "Oh, I'm kind of just waiting to see what'll happen." Some of those people will just continue to wait because they're just not motivated, and some of them are going to start jumping off the cliff soon. They're like,
Right.
"Hey, I'm ready to go now." So just keep in mind, I would have a good, strong, we talked about this, I think, a couple weeks ago, a good, strong follow-up approach with those people. Every week I'd be calling them saying, "Hey, do you still need to buy or sell? Are you ready to do that? There's solutions that we have now. Would you like to get started?" And see if those people are ready, or if there's some other condition that's holding them back, or maybe they're not as motivated as you thought, and that's okay. But I would try and find that out.
Yeah, and I would even say to them, like our estimates are slightly different. I think in a month, things are going to really pick up. That's just my gut. I can't prove that. And you said a couple months to 3 months. And probably it's somewhere in the middle there. But when I call my leads, I'd say, you know what, I know you want to wait until things have gotten back, but I just want to run this by you. I think it's going to open up and things are going to go a little crazy, like a floodgates are opening. So I'm just wondering, right now, especially if you're a buyer, you got a couple weeks, maybe a month of unfair advantage, because a lot of people are going to be doing that. All right, and then you could give them a couple examples. Like, I know people that didn't close on loans that are kicking themselves in the butt, and they wish they had, because especially if you were getting a jumbo, some of them don't exist anymore,
right,
or won't for a little while. So you have examples you give them, but I would, and if they still say no, I got to wait. Okay, I just want to throw it out there, because even some of them that say no right away will think about
it. Yeah, that's the beauty of asking questions. Is
Yeah.
you asking the question, they might say no, but then 2 or 3 days later they might call you and say, "Hey, I saw this house and I really, really like it. I think we're ready." So
Right.
yeah, that's definitely a thing. And then one quick story.
Yeah.
Well, the lesson first, and then the story behind it. It's really important now, especially if you have sellers, that you're continuing to talk to them, because it's easy to just. I had a couple of these where we had sellers who told me, like, "Yeah, Dan, I understand everything's on hold, so we'll just see how it goes." But you don't want to just leave those people. They probably feel abandoned if you're just not talking to them, right? Because they don't know what's going on. They need some kind of, they're quarantined at home. So I would really, don't let that happen to your clients. Make sure I'm talking about active clients now, not prospects, but people that you're actively working with. Don't let those relationships start to deteriorate. So I had one listing that it was a really good listing, priced really well. It was kind of a difficult listing to sell because it was more high end. It was a really big house. And we were like right on the cusp of selling it when the COVID thing started. And then right as that hit, like the showings went down and the seller got really frustrated. They were like, "Yeah, I just want to take it off the market." And I thought I was going to lose the listing. And I was really disappointed because it was a sale. And then it was also, they were buying 2 other properties. So this represented a lot of GCI.
Domino effect for you, yeah.
So what I did was, I was just really diligent about following up with this client. Every week I would call her and update her on her specific subdivision, what was going on, if there were new sales in there. I sent her an email update. I sent out reverse offers to the buyers who had viewed her property before, so I had her write an offer to them just to see if we could trigger any interest that way. So we tried a bunch of different things. And she told me last week, she said, "Hey Dan, like, I really appreciate you following up with me. When we relist it, we're going to put it back up in June, and we want you to handle that for us." So that was a really big win because of the fact that I went out of my way to continue following up with that person.
Right, and you still have to talk to her between now and then too.
Yeah, it's not over.
You look at, because Dan, that's the perfect example of what I call when lead follow up is done right. Until you get used to it, it feels like semi-stalker lead follow up. Mm-hmm. But if you don't do that, even NAR tells you, whoever calls them at the right time usually gets the listing. They usually do deal with the first or second person they've talked to. And most people, it's the first.
Yeah, and I had another one just like that. It was an expired listing, and I called her probably a month ago, and I had her in my follow-up. I called her again she came up in my follow-up, like I said, a reminder to call her. And I looked at it and I was like, I just talked to her last week. Like, probably nothing's changed. Like, I'm sure she's kind of still waiting, and I almost skipped it. And then I was like, no, screw that. I just got to call her, and I called her. She remembered me right off the bat. She remembered my first name. She was on her way when I called her driving from California to here, and we set an appointment that day to list the property. And it's coming on the market next month in the middle of the month.
Right.
So with follow-up, that's how it always happens. You're always... Those ones that are kind of scared to make the call and you're kind of resistant, you just have to make the call anyway because you'll always be surprised. It's never the people that you expect. All the deals that I get, or a lot of them, are just, they come out of the blue. Someone I would least expect, I call them, and like you said, you're just in the right place at the right time, and that's how it happens.
Yeah, that's why I used to do a lot of Justice at Just Souls, because, especially at first, I'm telling you, I was terrible on the phone. It took me a little while to get comfortable because I didn't have scripts back then. We're talking 1986, 87. And I used to call people and actually say, and I had all the wrong, I would say, hi, this is Rick Berube I was with ERA at the time. Mm-hmm. And I would say, do you have any real estate needs at this time? It was a yes or no question with an upswing with no authority. But I even did business doing it that way. So when you get this on purpose and skill, that works even better. Okay, anything else you can think of, because I got a couple I would have mentioned, but anything else you can think of as we're coming out of here? I mean, it sounds like it's pretty much the same, but as far as what you should be doing.
Yeah, I think most of the work was probably done the last few weeks. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, well, I think that whatever I talked to a lot of people that were door knockers, okay? So some of you have started to test with the phone. Look, I don't think door knocking is going to start up right away. So use this time to get comfortable with the phone. Yeah, but you know what? I'm better when I see people's body language. So am I. So is Dan.
Right.
So is everybody. You lose 55% of communication. But it's almost like if you see people that's blind or deaf, their other senses come to life, or more so. Same thing when you can't see them, you get more intuitive. And it helps you even more when you talk to them face to face. So pick something you're uncomfortable with and use this last bit of time to get good at it. And you know what it could be on the phone, it could be detailing your CRM more, getting it all in the VAC. Hell, we have the VAC 2.0 classes starting next week. Take them. Learn how to use it. So little things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with that. I would never let that be an excuse to not call people when people say, well, I'm better in person than I am over the phone. Yeah, that's true for everyone.
Right.
Everyone's better in person than they are over the phone, but you're going to need to have phone skills at some point. You can't get around that because at some point you're going to need to qualify someone over the phone. You can't, if you get a referral and they call you out of the blue and say, hey, I want to sell my house, you can't say, hold on, no, can't answer any questions. I have to drive over to your house. And
Are you home?
Yeah.
I'm on my way.
So at some point, obviously, you're going to need, and then you need to, you're going to have some type of situation where you're going to need those skills. So yeah, I completely agree. Get out of your comfort zone. Now's a great time to do that.
Absolutely. Okay, any final thoughts? Because I know we've gone on for a little bit today.
Nope. Yeah, that's it.
So guys, listen. Look at the market is still great. And when I say great, I mean there's plenty of transactions to be done. The numbers are going up. If you think May is going to equal February, then hopefully, June will come close to March. Maybe, who knows? You don't know. I think we may even surpass some of the numbers that we've done. You never know. But even if it stays the way it is, it's a healthy market with plenty of transactions for you. So the key is work. I know it's a 4-letter word, work, but I would do it every day. Be consistent.
Yeah, one final thought too is that in most of the markets that we're in, unless you're in a really rural market in the middle of nowhere, there's probably at least 2,000 transactions happening a month in most markets, right? And I think most of us would be happy with 10 would be really, really good, right? 10 would be really, really good. So there's no shortage of transactions happening, right? Until you get to the point, if there were only 10 deals happening a month, then you might have a problem. But even in arguably the worst possible time, there's still 2,000 transactions happening, probably more than that in most of the markets.
Right.
It all just comes down to you and your ability to talk to people. That's it.
Absolutely. All right, man. Thank you very much.
All right.
You guys go get them today.
Thank you,
We'll
guys.
talk to you soon.